Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bengals favored by 2 on the road in Pittsburgh. And it's Rudolph coming in to lead the Steelers through a 3-game losing streak. The fog, that is, the 3-game losing streak. Rudolph is going to lead them through here on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I mean, do you need any more analysis than Rudolph at Christmas? It's got to be a win, right?
No. You saw this. You saw it coming last week. You got ahead of all the puns. Mm-hmm. You were first to the pun game.
Had to be.
When it came to Rudolph, anticipating. Now, the thing is, he's not doing it on Christmas Eve. He's doing it the day before. Christmas Eve.
Eve.
It's Saturday afternoon.
It's Christmas week, though.
It's
weekend.
not, but it's not Rudolph's. Like, he's the guy on
They
Christmas
really
Eve.
should flex this game to Christmas.
They should. They really should. That's the analysis.
Or at least Christmas Eve. I mean, it should be one of the 2 Santa-relevant games, right? Days, rather.
It should be.
But it's not.
Jake Browning, got a stat for you.
Yeah.
He's got an 80.6 PFF grade. The last 3 games, though, 90, 83, and 80. 10-plus yard throws, he's completing 75% of his passes.
Okay.
10-plus yard throws. So Brock Purdy's the leader in the NFL for qualifiers, for guys that have played more than 4 games. And Purdy's at like 60, 65%. Browning's close to 75%. Again, we know that completion percentage as a stat depends on the receiver, because sometimes you throw a prayer to T. Higgins and he goes up and catches it.
Uh-huh.
A couple of Jake Browning's passes, by the way, remember in the Steelers game, were tips. The only big plays that they had were tipped passes that landed in Jamar Chase's hands. And now Jamar Chase dealing with an AC joint injury and might not be able to play here.
Yeah, Chase probably not playing. T. Higgins, it's another one of those games where it's an opportunity for T. Higgins to show, hey, I'm actually a number 1 receiver, even when Chase isn't there. Now, T. Higgins is quietly having quite a crappy year for his standards, which, like last week aside, where he's incredible last week, had one of the best touchdowns I've ever seen. Like, that man has not been a big impact. Now, he's been dealing with injuries as well. He's missed some time, but this is not the T. Higgins that he showed last year, where he's like, hey, I'm a number 1 wide receiver in addition to Jamar Chase. So it's a big opportunity for him to show that again, that, okay, it's not a great year, but I'm still legit, right? And I can get this done as the number 1 guy. This is going to be an interesting one where I think officiating is going to be quite important. Is this going to be a game where they let them go, or is it going to be a game where there's laundry every time there's physical contact between the wide receiver and the DB? Because
can I look at this data? I can look up this data because we collect it exclusively for NFL teams. What's the crew?
If you let Joey Porter Jr. and T. Higgins go at it physically, that's going to be fun. If, however, you throw a flag every time the 2 of them touch each other, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
But that could be fun because those are both very physical players, and letting them go at it will be an interesting thing. And then on the other side, you have the George Pickens dynamic, right? He came out and said the reason I didn't block on that potential touchdown run is because I didn't want to get hurt, didn't want to get rolled up on from behind. And anybody that criticizes that doesn't know ball. They didn't play the game. And then all the players in the media, this is the problem. This is the flaw now when you want to criticize the media because the media spent the last 10 years stocking itself full of former players. If you go, wow, the media didn't play, well, most of them did now. So all of the people in the media that did play the game came out and said, that's bullshit. You need to block on that play.
Including you and I. I mean, you are a second team IAFL.
It's true.
I am a 2004 flag football champion. We have all played. Okay.
You have officially strapped on a helmet. Now, it was in a studio, and it was one of these, but you did it.
Put on a helmet, yeah.
Yeah.
Done all this stuff. We've all played.
But
we've all
potentially,
played. We can criticize. We've played football.
Potentially more important and more, relevant to this discussion is guys like, our friend Andrew Hawkins, former wide receiver for 2 of the 4 AFC North teams, came out and said that's ridiculous. You block on this play. You don't spend your time worrying about when you're going to get rolled up on from behind,
Also, for a guy that, look, it felt innovative when George Pickens just in man coverage. Well, it was innovative when it was like, all right, this guy's playing man against me. It's a running play, and I'm just going to pop him.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, that's kind of tough as a cornerback because you're not expecting that. You're playing man coverage.
Yeah.
And Pickens, it felt like he might, be innovative, and instead it feels like he's just bullying at opportune times. Feels like a front runner, where he's going to pop you when it's to his favor, And then on real run plays, when he actually has to, be in the because he's in the slot doing this, right? You have to get dirty when you're in the slot. When you're outside, it doesn't really matter a ton, except on long runs. But when you're in the slot, you got to get dirty. And you have to make certain blocks because the guy you're blocking is probably in the run fit, so you have to play. You have to play football.
That's true. But he was also far away enough that you shouldn't be thinking – because he, I think, referenced the Tank Dell injury.
Yeah,
right?
He's nowhere near where Tank Dell was.
Yeah, it was very different to that. Remember when the Tank Dell thing happened, and I said at the time I had to watch it 3 or 4 times to figure out why the hell Tank Dell was even there in the middle of like a goal line formation at 150 pounds. Like, it made no sense. And it was because he specifically went looking for work after like multiple guys were already blocked and went from kind of tight slot formation to the middle of the line of scrimmage just beyond it and got taken from behind, so to speak. George Pickens was at least in the slot, in space. And not like he didn't have to look for work. He just had to block the guy right in front of him and keep blocking him and not bail on the block and let the guy make the play.
I just appreciate the self-awareness.
Thank you. There are some very concerning noises coming from the Pittsburgh locker room. This is connected to that. It's a bad run of double entendres. But Mike Tomlin, I forget who the reporter was. Somebody asked him, like, can one person essentially sour a locker room? And he said, absolutely. And they said, is that happening right now? And he said something like, it depends when you ask me. I mean, this world now of malcontents in the Pittsburgh locker room and Mike Tomlin not being able to curb that and getting these guys back on the right track seems to be a growing issue in Pittsburgh. They fired Matt Canada. That was a huge departure in terms of team philosophy, right? The last time that happened was Burt Bell in the 40s, who fired himself, right? They don't fire coaches midseason. They took out the nuclear bomb. They did it. Matt Canada's gone, and it hasn't fixed it.
Has not fixed it at all. Mitchell Trubisky has been benched after 2 rough games as starter. So it's Mason Rudolph time. Last time generally when we've seen Rudolph, it's a lot of underneath stuff. He's a guy at Oklahoma State years ago who had a pretty good deep ball. Like, he threw the ball down the field pretty well. He just didn't try it a whole lot in the NFL. I'm interested to see, I like to lean aggressive, especially when, let's assume George Pickens is okay. Like, he's still into it, right? You have a George Pickens, you have tight ends, you have guys that can make plays down the field. I'd like to see the Steelers lean aggressive and try to push the ball down the field. Their playoff life is on the line here. Steelers are 7-7, tied with the Broncos for the 10 and 11 seeds in the AFC. Bengals currently the number 6 seed at 8-6, one of 5 teams who are 8-6 in the AFC. Fascinated to just see more Jake Browning, man, because it looks similar to what Brock Purdy is doing. I still don't think Brock Purdy has a good arm, velocity-wise, but he gets the ball there. Anticipation, accuracy. Browning has several of those throws every single week where he makes up for a lack of velocity with just anticipation and accuracy, which is just, I love watching that at the NFL level because it feels like it's tough to maintain, but if you're really good at anticipating and putting the ball where you want, you're going to complete passes. It's more important in the long run. So watching Browning maintain that, looking forward to that against the Steelers here.
Yeah, Browning's look good. I mean, now he does have one bad game, which is why his grade isn't good.
That was Pittsburgh, week 12.
There you go.
Now, was that just because it was his first game?
Right.
3 turnover-worthy plays. He was holding the ball too long in the pocket on several plays. And as I mentioned, I think his longest completion in that game was tipped. It was just a batted pass that landed right in Jamar Chase's hands. He was not good against Pittsburgh in that game.
Right.
And then he comes back the next week, goes 32 for 37 for 354 on Monday
Right.
Night
Like, if
Football.
that game hadn't happened, Jake Browning would have come in and looked like from start to finish like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But there's one bad start in there as well that doesn't look as good.
And by the way, that start had a passer rating of 96. In part, there was luck involved, but a PFF grade of 39.
Right.
So there's a big difference in reality versus the
and some of that
the
was
numbers there.
fumble, but still.
Yeah, of course. So all that said, Bengals by 2 here in Pittsburgh.
I will buy into the Bengals.
Yeah, Jake Browning's got special level of spite. So,
which puts Mike Tomlin up against it. That would mean he needs to win out to avoid the losing season.
Pittsburgh's probably going to win. No, I'm going to take Pittsburgh.